And so I had these constraints, major constraints on my life, but these constraints were also the biggest blessings I had. So I felt completely grateful, knew I was living in a miracle or miracles, but I also had the flip side of feeling like I had no freedom, no options, and it felt very suffocating. I know, does any of it sound familiar? Where you know you've got these incredible gifts in your life, but yet you also feel completely trapped. It's a weird dichotomy, but a very, very common one at that. Welcome to The Onion Peel, a show where we get real, raw, and honest about life. It's a space where authenticity lives and hope resides. The Onion Peel is a place where we peel back the layers of our stories and discover the unexpected flavoring that each one brings. Hey guys, I'm your host and semi-crazy Christian, Angela McConnell. I'm a middle-aged mom of 5 with a dead husband, and I've been through some shit in my life. Now, I'm on a mission to bring hope to the world. So join me as we journey through this onion and find hope in the tears. You ready to peel this thing? Hello, and welcome to The Onion Peel. Thanks for joining me today. So, okay, here's the deal. I have been having a weird few days. I'm not going to lie. When I say weird, I mean, I guess that they have caught me off guard. And here's why. We have Marin's open house this summer. COVID tried to put the kibosh on it, but that ain't happening. We just moved it out a little bit, and we're just taking extra precaution to have everything be safe and sanitary. And so I've been busy getting ready for that. Now keep in mind, this is my third open house that I have put on. I know open house is sometimes a regional thing. It's a grad party that I have put on in a row. So I've had 1, 2, 3 in a row. This is my 4th one overall. So this ain't my first rodeo. And so obviously in putting these grad parties on, you do a whole board thing of the graduates' pictures from baby on up. And I, over the years, have always kept photo boxes for the kids up until probably right around when Don died, because that's kind of when phone cameras really started to get good. And then from then on out, everything I have went digital. But all their baby pictures and elementary pictures and all that stuff is in photo boxes. And they each have multiple sets of photo boxes. Everything's organized by date, by event, chronologically. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Thank you, OCD. So as I'm pulling Marin's out, I'm finding that I can literally only do one box at a time. And you know, they're like the size of shoe boxes. And it's taking me hours to get through one box. Yes, there's the piece where, of course, I'm enjoying, reminiscing, and looking at everything, for sure. But it's more than that. I'm struggling through them. And it just has been very unexpected because when I went through and did the boys the last couple years, it wasn't a problem. I mean, sure, I had a couple twinges when I'd see pictures of Don or whatever, but this is just outright killing me. And I'm like, what the heavens to Betsy is going on right now, people? So I don't know. I honestly don't have an answer. I wish that I did, but all I can tell you is, yes, absolutely missing Don. When I see the pictures of him, I just want to hug him. And then there's a part of me that feels like he's literally still here, right? He's just downstairs. And this isn't even the house that he would even know. But you have that feeling where all your memories are just so fresh and real that they don't feel like memories. They feel like reality. But then there's the other thing that's going on, which is a longing for my old life, for our family life, for our community life, for our church life, just all of it. It's very strange. I don't know. I wish I had an understanding of why it's hurting so badly. I don't know. That's the thing with loss, is that, sometimes you don't know what's going to trigger you. And sometimes you think you're good to go, and you are actually good to go, but then something gets hit inside, whether it's an emotion or a memory or even just a thought, and boom, you get pulled back into it and you out, and it hurts. And I guess with all that being said is kind of a lead in to, or maybe a piggyback conversation into just what I want to touch on this episode, which is really about trying to figure out, how do you start to live again after loss? Not just survive. I mean actually engaging in life again. And I want to do that using some practical logic or a pragmatic mindset. We had gotten through the first year, climbed Mount Mitchell, got my message from God that said, awesome, wonderful, you got this thing, but the journey's still going. So keep your butt moving forward. Which was great, but then you come back from that kind of intense experience with that kind of revelation, and now you got to sit in it. Now you have to stop and go, oh, but what if I don't know how to keep moving forward into something that's new? And I think it's one of those revelations that happens not just based on loss, whether it's from a death or a relationship or a job or whatever. It could be just based on disillusionment. Like the kind when you think, oh, once I get married, everything's going to be fine. Or once I have a baby, I'm really going to be happy then. Or if my kid can just pass this test and get a good grade on it, everything's going to work out. Or if I could just get that promotion, then I know that I'm going to be fulfilled inside. And you achieve that, or you get the result that you think you want, and then you realize, oh, well, I'm not feeling the way that I thought that I was going to. Life isn't looking the way that I figured it would once this happened. So you sit in a place of disillusionment, and you don't know what to do because you're confused. And so now you're sitting in a moment or a place where life requires recalibration. So whether it's recalibration through loss or recalibration because of disillusionment, it's still required if you're seeking a joy-filled or peace-filled existence. You have to find a way to walk forward into something that you don't recognize. And that was the specific case for me. Year 2 starts. I get a message that says, you're done surviving your tragedy. Now go start to live. And so what do you do with that? What do you do when you have to relearn how to live or relearn how to set your sights on something new? Right? I mean, if you get divorced, that's a huge change in life, whether you were the one that wanted it or not. Or how about when your kid goes away to college or moves away because they're an adult now? And you're left going, So what am I supposed to do now exactly? Or everything that's going on right now with COVID and loss of job or change of how you do your job. Or what about retirement? Or how about those disillusionment situations where all of a sudden you wake up, you've been married 10 years and 3 kids later, and it dawns on you that you've completely given yourself up and this is not exactly the way that you thought life was going to be. Or, geez, wow, I'm vice president. Funny, I thought I'd be happier. All of those have a grieving or bewildering component to them, aka loss or disillusionment. So I think it's important that as you begin the recalibration process for your future, that you spend some time evaluating where you've been, how you're currently feeling, so that you can sit in the truth of what your life is in the exact present moment. And that way you can afford yourself a better chance at getting a clearer picture of what you truly desire as you move forward into the unknown. Man, I just want to cue in the Frozen song right now. Into the unknown. Sorry, I'm a terrible singer. Marin will be embarrassed when she hears this, but I can't help it. I can't say those words without thinking of Frozen 2. Anywho, so pausing for the cause to sit in your moment of truth in life, like I said, not only gives you that breath to really think about what you want going forward, but even more important than that almost is that you can evaluate how much fear is surrounding you. I believe that one of the biggest things that holds any of us back from greatness is fear. And I think a lot of times that fear dictates what our actions are. And so, as you're sitting there contemplating what this keep moving forward future is going to be, make sure that you are aware of any fear that might be surrounding you. And if it's there, you have to overcome it. You have to face it. You have to work through it. That's the number one thing, is you've got to shut fear down. We live in our little boxes and under our protective bubbles for so long that we don't even realize the whole reason we live in them in the first place is because we're afraid. Of what, you ask? Well, that just depends on each one of our histories. And honestly, the list is endless. Fear of getting hurt. Fear of your kids, your husband, your wife, a family member getting hurt. Fear of getting sick. Fear of not being smart enough. Fear of not being pretty enough. Fear of being overlooked. Fear of not having any worth. I mean, the list goes on. So it boils down to fear is most likely there, and fear has to be contended with. Because fear will stop us from thinking big, from dreaming without boundaries, from believing in the impossible. Look at me. I had just spent a year being surrounded in fear. Then I go and have this intense experience on Don's 1-year death anniversary climbing Mount Mitchell, where I find that I'm victorious in making it to the pinnacle, but yet on the way down, I get completely shrouded in fear again. And once the whole thing is over, I find that, wait a minute, you survived all of it once again. You're good. There is nothing to be afraid of. Look what you just did. Again. Keep moving forward. The journey's not over. And so coming home from that experience and having that revelation and then pulling in to small town America, God bless small town America, nothing against it. But I had just come from this incredibly large experience. And I pulled in my driveway and all of a sudden I could feel the fear and I just felt small. And I didn't like the way small felt. Not after what I had just experienced. I didn't like feeling fear tapping me on my shoulder once again, trying to convince me that that was what was going to be comforting, that being in the same place was safe, that staying small was how I won't get hurt again. But you know what? I wasn't having it because I was changed. Fear was contended with. It didn't have the power anymore. Fear doesn't get to dictate what I'm going to do or what I'm going to choose or what I'm going to dream. And so, as I start to recalibrate, I was freed from fear. So now I can continue forward movement. Now, I didn't necessarily know what I wanted right away. I just knew that I didn't want what I used to have. Because in my mind, that seemed really silly to keep doing the same life that I was doing when Don was alive, but to just do it with him dead. It's like, I don't want to keep running the same roads that I did when Don was alive. It just seemed pointless to me. Now, if you are somebody who gains comfort from your routine, which I think we all do to some extent, absolutely, 100%. But if it's bringing you peace to run those same roads, to be in that same place where all the memories are, then I think that's awesome. And I think you should keep doing whatever it is that is working for you, as long as it's working for you. If it's holding you back, then it's time to reevaluate your recalibration. So if I have to live with Don being dead, well, then I want a different life. And of course, I had my kids to consider. I'm not trying to say it was all about me. That's not what I'm saying. The kids and I, as you know, we always communicated. We always talked about how everybody was feeling, what everybody thought, all that good stuff. But there's this thing that happens when tragedy strikes. And again, whether that's a sudden death or you find out somebody had an affair on you, whatever the case, where your realm of how you see the world changes, you go through that period where fear sits on you like crazy. But then after you start to survive it, many times you get on the other side of that trek and you're like, I don't have anything to be afraid of. Look at what I just walked through. Are you kidding me right now? What do I have to fear? I've already had my heart broken. My life is in shattered pieces. Heck, what do I got to lose? And that was kind of where my mindset began to rest. And as I expressed talking to the kids about that, they felt the same way. And we wanted to start stepping out into something different. We didn't want to just repaint the walls in our life. We wanted new walls. But the question was, how do we go about doing that? How do you move forward? How do you learn to live again after you've been surviving? To actually re-engage. How do you do the actual recalibration? To be able to step into something new. It does depend on your specific situation, but in the general sense, I believe there are certain protocol or certain steps that you can take. Now, for me, I didn't have any money. We all know that. And although I am 100% on board with money does not buy you happiness, amen, all day long. But I will tell you that money does provide you with choices. And when you are trying to step foot out into a new arena, when you are trying to figure out what your new dreams are going to look like, having deep pockets definitely helps with that, obviously. And I didn't have that. Hell, I didn't even have any pockets in my pants. And you know what? Not the only one. A lot of people are like that. Now, what I did have is tremendous blessing. We're still in the house at this point. Unbelievable, but we're still in the house at this point. Living there for free, as the bank still is deciding whether there's going to be any chance to allow us to try and buy our home back, which was an amazing miracle, one that I am forever grateful for. But the flip side of that was that I couldn't leave. See, I had a free house I was living in, and I couldn't let go of the opportunity of possibly being able to get it back, because if I was able to get it back, then I could sell it and get money for it. And if I could get money for it, well, then I could go buy our new walls in a new place or whatever. You see, we were starting to get hungry. We just wanted to go exploring because now we were starting to live without fear and we wanted to see what the possibilities were. The other part of that equation was that, thank God, I have a profession that allows me to make my own schedule. I come and go when I want, and I have flexibility of time, which is of the utmost value when you're a single parent and you're trying to be involved in your kids' lives as much as you can because you know you're doing double duty. And so it wasn't like I could just, I'm just going to quit what I'm doing and go get another job someplace else, because another job might require me to work 60, 70 hours a week. And I am not in a position to do that because I have a lot of kids that I need to finish raising. And so I had these constraints, major constraints on my life, but these constraints were also the biggest blessings I had, besides my kids. So I felt completely grateful, knew I was living in a miracle or miracles, but I also had the flip side of feeling like I had no freedom, no options, and it felt very suffocating. I know, does any of it sound familiar? Where you've got these incredible gifts in your life, but yet you also feel completely trapped. It's a weird dichotomy, but a very, very common one at that. So, we had to find a new way to live. We had to find a way to fulfill the hunger inside of our souls for newness, while living within the parameters set before us. And it wasn't an easy task. And it wasn't something that happened overnight. It took years to actually get what I would call a new life established. A new enough life. I'll be straight up with you guys on a personal note. I love my life. I feel that my life is incredibly blessed. But with that all being said, this isn't the full capacity of what I want my life to be. It's not even close. But we all know what it is as parents, that we sacrifice our lives until our children have launched into theirs. And I think once that release happens, I think then we have more freedoms, or at least we have more freedoms without feeling guilty about it. So what were the things then, or the process after understanding the truth in what we were sitting in and knowing that the important piece to that was that fear, for the most part, was defeated? What came next to help us to learn to live in a new way? Knowing that there were some pretty stringent constraints for the time being. Well, first, I gave myself permission to dream. Just straight up dream. Because in my mind, I figured that if Don can kill himself and that kind of nightmare can happen, well then, so can the most incredible dream. I was simply going to dream big, regardless of what my current barriers were, because I knew that they weren't going to be there forever. And so that meant that there's no ceiling to the limit of what your dream could be. And that's the beauty, like I have said earlier in other episodes, of being down so low and being shocked that life could be that bad also allots you the counterbalance of, well, then it can be that good too. So give yourself permission to dream. What, no holds bar, would you like to see your life look like? What do you want to do with it? Do you want to change jobs? Do you want to have more kids? Do you want to travel? Do you someday want to be in a house with a pool? Do you want to start a charity or a foundation? Do you want to travel the world? Do you want to be able to have complete financial freedom someday? What is it? Dream it. Start dreaming it. Give yourself permission to say that that's possible, whatever it is. And so that's what I did. And I'm still dreaming. I still have parts of my dream that I'm waiting for, as I've said a couple episodes ago about traveling and falling in love again and all those things. And I'm excited. And I'm 6 years out from when I started giving myself permission to dream. The second thing that I did after saying yes to dreaming was to then actually start to get a game plan or an action plan to take forward movement into that dream. Now look, depending on what your dream is, it could take years to realize it. But that's okay. What else you got to do? Sit in fear? So I started a conversation with myself saying, hey, what can I do to start propelling myself forward into this dream? For instance, I want to travel. One of the things I did, I went and got my passport. Absolutely no plans whatsoever on the books of traveling out of the country, but I was like, I'm going to get my passport. So I saved my little bit of money, because it does cost a little bit of money to get a passport, and made sure I had a good hair day, went down, got my picture taken, boom, got my passport. I'm ready to go. So when the opportunity presents itself through getting some extra money, being offered a speaking engagement, whatever the case, my dream of traveling around the world is going to be fulfilled. And I will have been prepared for it. Third thing, which I think is super important if you're going to start figuring out how to live again after a major change or a major loss in your life. And that is, you need to step out of your comfort zone. You need to step out of a place that's familiar and into a place that makes you feel completely uncomfortable. Because if you don't force yourself out of your box, out of your norm, and push yourself into a place that just feels off or weird or not you, then fear is going to rule your life forever. And it won't matter that you already contended with it at the start of this whole process. It'll just invite its way right back to home. Because that's what things that are familiar do. And you'll sit in that place of, well, if this really bad thing can happen, or, boy, things sure didn't turn out the way that I thought, so I better just hold on tight to everything else because you never know what's going to happen to that. Well, and that's just silly. I mean, that's like me going in and saying, well, I'm not even going to bother to try and fall in love again or get married again because my first husband killed himself. And who knows? What if my second husband does the same thing? I mean, come on. What if my second husband dies? Well, you know what? He is going to die. And so am I. But that's not going to stop me from going in and giving it 100% and giving him everything, even though I might get crushed again. I'm not going to do that. But to get myself prepared to make sure that I don't, I need to continue to put myself in situations that are uncomfortable. For example, how about the first time that I went to the movies by myself? Yeah, that wasn't fun. That wasn't comfortable. And you know what? I didn't even enjoy it. But I wasn't going to let it stop me from going to see the movie I wanted to see. I am a single person now. So sometimes I'm going to have to go to the movies by myself. And that's okay. How about the first time I decided to take my children on vacation, knowing that if anything happened to any one of the kids, to the car, anything, that it's all on me in a place that I know nothing about. Did I not think I could handle it? Of course I knew that I could handle it. I have a brain. It's not that. It's a place of, this is heavy. I don't really like this, but I'm not going to allow it to stop me from living life. We're going to go make memories. How about the first time that you go out with friends and you're the fifth wheel? Oh, that's fun. That's a good time. Talk about feeling the loneliness and having it sit right next to you the entire night. But what's the option? Stay home? Sit in your cocoon? And just not engage in life? No, that's not what I was going to do. You have to continually put yourself into situations that are hard, that are unnerving, and that sometimes even might hurt because it's uncomfortable. It's simply about changing your behavior patterns and becoming more accepting and more familiar with stepping outside of your bubble. So that when an opportunity to walk forward into your dream comes on your path, you don't pass it up because you're afraid. So even if it's something like, I'm going to join a bowling league, and you could say to yourself, oh my gosh, I don't even know if that sounds fun, and it's certainly not my kind of thing, but you know what? You never know. Maybe I'll love it. Maybe change your hair color. Oh, I can't do that. I mean, I've had my same color. I mean, I need it to look natural. You know what? Maybe have it look not natural. Maybe go a fun color, or maybe get some crazy highlights. And if you hate it, all right, go buy a box of dye, cover it up. Hey, if you're introverted, go find yourself a group that's going to force you to talk. If you're extroverted, you know what? Sit home and try and be with yourself for a while. Just do the opposite of what you would normally do. I know that it is not easy. And this is probably, in my opinion, the hardest part of having to learn to re-engage in life again, to learn to get past the disillusionment, to learn to step forward into a new future. but it's so important. You have to learn about yourself. You have to be aware that you have already grown from your experience. The hardship, the pain, the confusion, the frustration, all that has already morphed you in some ways. But you're not going to see it if you're just running the same roads. You have to step out so you can realize that there's so much more to you than you ever thought there was. And usually, after going through something that's hurtful or hard, you get this newfound understanding of the depth of your personality. It's really quite beautiful and fun and enlightening. And it'll help to kind of put a bounce back in your step. And then I would say the last thing that I had to learn to do as I was figuring out how to re-engage in life was that I had to be patient with myself. I had to really be kind to myself and be my own friend. And I had to learn to understand that if I really truly wanted to go chase after these new dreams and to find new roads, that it was going to take time. And that even though I wanted everything to change now, I still had to remember to just keep breathing, take one step at a time, realize that Rome wasn't built in a day, and that I was still healing. And the healing process takes a very long time because it's in stages. I mean, you don't just get over a divorce or get over somebody breaking your trust or the loss of a loved one or the realization that your life didn't turn out the way that you thought it was going to. You have to be patient with the process. Because as I've said before, sometimes, we can't just handle all the truth at one time. Sometimes God just can't download everything to us because it would be far beyond our capacity to handle it. So we have to walk along and gain wisdom in each day until we can gird ourselves up to hold on to the new knowledge, to the new awareness of who we are and what we're capable of. And that's a process, and we have to be patient with ourselves. We have to be a friend to ourselves and say, hey, you know what? Maybe today wasn't such a good day. Maybe today wasn't productive. Maybe today just hurt like hell. Tomorrow's another day. Because we all know that hope for a better day is always there. So there it is, some practical steps to re-engaging back in life after loss, disillusionment, or any kind of major change. Let's recap. First, you need to gain perspective of where exactly your life sits, what's your mindset in this particular moment, so that you can really address and understand what kind of fear surrounds you in the moment. So confronting fear really is the first step in being able to move forward into something new. I'm not saying it's an easy thing, but it is a totally doable thing. Fear is so much bigger in our heads than it is in reality. But once we decide and deal with and say no more fear going forward, then we can move on to the next step, which is give yourself permission to dream and dream big. Then get yourself an action plan and keep moving forward in it. And then decide to step out of what you know and into what you don't know, so that fear cannot take a hold of you again. And lastly, be patient with yourself. You need to be a friend to you. Now, in another episode, I don't know, maybe the next one after that. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far. I will tell you and share with you what one of my big dreams was and how I stepped out in it and the very interesting results from it. I just haven't decided if I'm going to try and tell that whole journey in one episode. I don't know. I got to figure that out. But this just sets the stage, A, and B, hopefully just gives you some stuff to think about. I mean, none of it's rocket science, I understand. It's just stuff that when I look back, I just remember very distinctly changing stages from surviving to living and what practical steps I had to do to get there. I guess that's it. With that, it's time to put this onion back in the bin until we talk again. I hope you guys have a totally dreamy day. See ya!